James Calloway was the CEO of one of the largest restaurant chains in America, a self-made millionaire who had built his empire from the ground up. Though he had worked in the food industry for years, it had been decades since he had truly experienced what it was like to be an average customer, or an employee. Lately, James had grown concerned about stories of poor service and unhappy workers in his company's restaurants. He wanted to know the truth, not from corporate reports but from first-hand experience. So, he devised a plan. He would go undercover as a struggling old man, disguising himself with ragged clothes, a scruffy beard, and a limp in his walk. His goal? To test the kindness of the staff at one of his own restaurants, an outlet in a small town where customer service was supposedly top-notch. A cold encounter. On a chilly evening, James entered the restaurant, his disguise making him look like a weary traveler who had seen better days. His clothes were tattered, his boots scuffed, and his hands rough with pretend dirt. As he stepped inside, a few customers gave him skeptical glances, their eyes darting away quickly, as if afraid he might ask them for something. He walked slowly toward the counter, where a young hostess barely looked at him before sighing. "Dining in?" she asked, her tone indifferent. James nodded. "Table in the back," she said, handing him a menu without another word. As he shuffled to the table, he noticed that a few employees were whispering and pointing in his direction. He heard someone mutter, "Ugh, why do people like that come in here?" James felt a pang of disappointment. Was this how they treated struggling customers? But then, something unexpected happened. A young waitress named Emily approached him with a warm smile. She looked to be in her mid-20s, her dark hair pulled into a ponytail, her uniform slightly worn but neat. Unlike the others, she didn't hesitate or look at him with judgment. "Hi there," she said cheerfully. "Welcome to our restaurant. My name's Emily, and I'll be taking care of you today. Can I get you something warm to drink? It's pretty cold outside." James smiled at her kindness. "Just some water, please." She nodded but didn't leave right away. "Are you sure? We have fresh coffee and hot tea." "It's on me." James was taken aback. "That's very kind of you," he said. "I'd love a coffee." As she hurried off, he watched as the other employees gave her strange looks. One of the cooks whispered, "Why are you wasting time on him?" Emily ignored them. When she returned, she placed a steaming cup of coffee in front of him and smiled. "Do you know what you'd like to eat?" James hesitated, pretending to fumble with the menu. "I don't have much money. Maybe just the cheapest thing." Emily glanced at the menu, then leaned in slightly. "Don't worry about that. I've got it covered." James was stunned. "You do that for me?" She shrugged. "Everyone deserves a good meal, no matter what." As Emily served him a hot plate of food, she sat down for a brief moment. "If you don't mind me asking, are you okay? You look like you've been through a lot." James, staying in character, nodded. "I've had some hard times. Lost my job, my home, just trying to get by." Emily's eyes softened. "That's tough. I've been there too. A couple of years ago, I lost everything after my mom got sick. I had to work double shifts just to keep the lights on. That's why I try to help when I can." James felt a lump in his throat. This young woman, who had every reason to be bitter, was choosing kindness instead. As he finished his meal, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a crumpled $5 bill. "It's all I have," he said apologetically. Emily gently pushed it back toward him. "Keep it. You need it more than I do." The next day, James returned to the restaurant, this time as himself. No disguise. No ragged clothes. He arrived in a tailored suit, driving his luxury car. As he walked in, the employees barely recognized him, until he called for a staff meeting. Standing before them, he announced, "My name is James Calloway. I am the CEO of this restaurant chain. The room went silent. Employees exchanged nervous glances, some shifting uncomfortably. Yesterday, I came in as a customer, he continued. And I saw firsthand how you treat people based on their appearance. His gaze settled on the hostess who had dismissed him. Some of you judged me before you even knew me. The hostess turned red, looking down at the floor. But one person stood out, James said, turning to Emily. This young woman showed compassion, generosity, and kindness, without expecting anything in return. Emily looked shocked. Wait, that was you? James smiled. Yes, and because of your kindness, I want to give something back to you. He reached into his pocket and handed her an envelope. Inside is a check for $50,000. I want you to use it for whatever you need, whether it's for school, a home, or even starting your own business. Emily's eyes filled with tears. Are you serious? James nodded. You reminded me why I started this business, to serve people with kindness and respect. You embody that spirit. The restaurant erupted into applause, and even some of the employees who had been judgmental looked ashamed of their action. News of the story spread, and customers began flooding the restaurant, inspired by Emily's kindness. James implemented a new company-wide policy to emphasize respect and empathy for all customers, no matter their background. As for Emily, she used part of her money to go back to school and help her family, but she continued working at the restaurant, this time, as a manager. And from that day on, no one in that restaurant ever judged a customer by their appearance again.